Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. This is a place where I talk about books and sometimes a few other things. And today I'm going to tell you about my knitting projects. I talked about these lace fingerless gloves that I had started a couple weeks ago, and I have finished them. Very happy with them. So this was from a skein of cashmere, and I got out a book from the library, Lace One Skein Wonders. I'll include a link below for some ideas about how to use this, these small amounts of yarn that I've got. And these are so cozy. I was skeptical at first, like, what is the use of gloves with no fingers? But it's chilly here in the mornings, and this just keeps my hands warm while I'm reading a book and drinking some tea. And I've started a new project, a cardigan done in multicolors. So using up small bits of yarn, beautiful, gorgeous Kiviot and Kiviot blend yarns that I got from the Northern Fibers Guild auction back in January. If you're watching my channel then, you might have heard me talk about it. There's a lot of knitting channels on YouTube, and Nicole Knits had one fairly recently talking about what to do with mini skeins of yarn. I will link that below. So that's where I saw this project. I'll pop in a photo here. It's a design by Amy Gunderson, and this is as far as I've got so far. I think it needs about 275 of these little squares, and you create them by you pick up stitches and then use intarsia to make the square. So one half is one color and the other half is another color, with decreases down the middle. Yeah, it's quite a unique construction form, and I'm really liking it so far. I'm taking my time though. And in other knitting news, I went to the Beehive wool shop for a guest speaker that they had, Emily McIver. She raises blue-faced Leicester sheep on Thetis Island, which is just off the coast of Vancouver Island. And she talked about farming sheep and what it's like. And so, for example, she said that from her sheep in a year, she can get 13 skeins of wool. And, you know, if you think about how much you would have to sell a skein for in order to pay for the upkeep of the sheep for an entire year, plus processing it, she sends it to a mill in Alberta, and she dyes it as well. So it is available at the Beehive. There's their card, Beehive Wool Shop. It's a wool shop that has been in Victoria for 119 years and in the same family for the past 28 years or so. So this 111 places to in Victoria that you must not miss. Beehive is in here. It's a really beautiful shop. And while I was reading the books that I'm going to be telling you about today, I had George Littlechild's art book on the kitchen table, and I've been picking it up and going through the photos. I have since returned it to the library, but there were images in there that seem to connect with the books that I'm reading. And the best one is for the book Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright. I will tell you more about this book at the end of this video. I'm saving it for last. Always say best for last. Well, here's this painting that George Littlechild created, reserve housing. And there's this sort of cloud over the top in the painting. Praiseworthy is about a town of Australian Aboriginal people, and they are living in shoddy government housing that's not suitable for the very hot weather in the north of Australia. And they're living under this big cloud, a haze. And yeah, this, you can see why this painting would remind me of it. Okay, on to the books. First up is Bog Myrtle by Sid Sharp. They are a non-binary writer and illustrator in Toronto. I've previously talked about their book, The Wolf Suit. I've raved about it, actually. I think I'll include a link to that video where I talked about it. It was one of my best books of the year when I read it. Bog Myrtle is adorable. There's knitting in it. Here's a little bit more about Sid Sharp. Their main interests include folklore, scary stories, mysterious and unknowable things, and finding good sticks for their stick collection. Gives you a good idea about their sense of humor. This book is nominated for an Eisner Award in the category Best Publication for Early Readers. So when it opens, we see two sisters lived in a hideous, drafty old house on the edge of town. One was named Beatrice and the other was named Magnolia. Look at the spiders. Turn that frown upside down. Anyway, these spiders earn their keep by catching flies. Even so, Magnolia does not like the spiders. She doesn't like anything, really. And her sister Beatrice is always upbeat. She decides to knit a sweater for her sister. When she goes to the yarn store, she discovers that they won't exchange yarn for beautiful things like the smoothest pebble in the forest or the shiniest cicada skins. But luckily, a monster in the forest named Bog Myrtle comes to the rescue. So from a hideous house to hideous Kinky. This is a novel by Esther Freud. It was actually her debut. She has written a number of books since then. Esther Freud is a British novelist, and her sister, her older sister, Bella Freud, is a fashion designer. And my feminist book club discussed this recently, and the other members were familiar with her as a fashion designer. Not me, but I did look her up online, and I also learned that Esther Freud has a new book coming out. I think it's nonfiction. It's called Sisters and Other Lovers. It might be essays. It's coming out in July in the UK and in August in Canada, perhaps in the USA as well. I'm not sure about there. But this copy, you can see it has a film tie-in cover with Kate Winslet on the cover. The book came out in 1992, and a few years later, there was a film version made of it. And this book was a gift to me from a fabulous booktuber, Marilyn Maya Mendoza. And I enjoyed it very much. When Roz of Scallydandling About the Books watched that video where Maya talked to me about Hideous Kinky when she gave it to me, Roz commented that, I think she said she thought it was delightful. I totally agree. I enjoyed this very much. It is closely autobiographical, so it's based on Esther's own experience. When she was about 5 years old and her sister B was 7, their mother took them on a year-long journey through North Africa with no money, pretty much. They had a lot of adventures, and this is set in the 60s, sort of the later part of the 1960s. It was a totally different time, that's for sure. You can see by all the flags, there were many passages that caught my interest to talk about with my book club buddies. Next, I have another book that's on the Eisner nomination list for Best Publication for Early Readers. Poetry Comics, Words and Pictures by Grant Snider. Here are a few pages. This one is Other Oceans. The wind makes waves in new wheat. Clouds foam and froth like surf. Night in the country is a sparkling sea. This one is Inner Life. There are secret dreams that live inside each person. Can you see them? They swim just beneath the surface. I really like the way that the 3 panels stacked on top of each other are all one image. And here's How to Write a Poem number 1. Find a quiet place, a sharp pencil, a blank page, sit still, keep quiet, wait. A poem will rush in to fill the space. This is a charming book for all ages. Next, I have a couple of audiobooks, starting with The Snag, A Mother, the Forest, and Wild Grief. It's by Tessa McWatt. She was born in Guyana, and her parents moved to Canada, and for the first part of her life, she was raised by her grandmother in Guyana, and then I think she was 9 when she came to Canada. And she said she always felt a sense of not belonging, of not knowing who she was. She is of mixed heritage, descendant of enslaved people from Africa and indentured workers from China and India and European ancestry too, I think. Anyway, she currently lives in London in the UK, and her mother, while she was writing this book, her mother was experiencing dementia or some sort of memory loss. And so Tessa was making fairly frequent trips from Europe back to Canada to be with her mother and to help with elder care. Her mother was living with one of her sisters. Tessa talks about how trees are a source of solace for her. There's so much in here about trees. Books that she references are books that I'm familiar with, and you probably are too. The Global Forest by Diana Beresford Kroger, and The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben, and Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. And the central question in this memoir is about letting go of grief. Grief about her mother's impending death, grief about her sense of non-belonging, and grief about environmental devastation of our planet. So many layers. And I listened to the audiobook. It's read by the author, and there are forest sounds from around the world that are incorporated between each chapter. So it kind of fades in as she's finishing a chapter, and then you hear bird song, forest song, rushing water, or rain, and then it fades out again as she starts the next chapter. It's a lovely, lovely production. And on the title, the snag. So a snag in forest terms is a tree that is dead or dying. And these trees, the snags, support a wide range of life, even more than when the tree is at its healthiest. So it's a lovely tie-in to the stages of life and what comes next. I really loved hearing the bird song in that book, and this is a tie-in to the next audiobook, because in this next book, Sound Affects by Julian Treasure, he quotes Dr. Eleanor Ratcliffe, who did research into birdsong and how it affects our brains. I'm going to link to a Natural History Museum article that also quotes Eleanor Ratcliffe. In there, they say, the research found some bird sounds offered relief from mental fatigue and stress, but this depended on the kinds of birds and what respondents associated with it. So, for example, the melody of a songbird was well received as it sounded musical and pleasant. However, the call of a magpie generated stress, as it was loud and raucous, which reminded some participants of intentional aggression. And since my channel is Lindy's Magpie Reads, I had to mention that about magpies. So the full title is Sound Affects: How Sound Shapes Our Lives, Our Well-Being, and Our Planet. And once again, the audiobook is read by the author. He's a British speaker on the topic of communication. He's done, I think, 5 TED Talks. I watched the one called How to Speak So People Want to Listen. In this audiobook, he talks about the difference between listening and hearing. There are 4 main sections in the book. So in one section, it's all about planet sounds. I learned that the earth has a hum, and he talks about how that's created. Then there's the sounds of living beings, and one of the fascinating aspects in that section is sonar cytology. So the sounds of cells, even individual celled beings, or the sounds of multi-celled organisms, and how research is being done that is investigating how we can learn when cells are healthy or diseased, strictly based on their sounds. So much fascinating stuff. There's one section that's all about silence, and another section that's all about sounds made by humans. And most of those sounds are considered noise. This is unwanted sound that's created unintentionally or accidentally, and we live with it, but it affects our health. And in this audiobook, Julian Treasure talks about how we can improve our health and well-being through sound. In the section where we talked about the sounds of fish and other sounds underwater, it reminded me of Amina Kingdon's book, Sing Like Fish, which I talked about not that long ago. There was another book that he referenced that I read decades ago, in the 80s or 90s maybe. It's called The World is Sound, Not a Brahma, and it's by a German jazz musician, Joachim Ernst Brent. So I went down so many rabbit holes when I was listening to this audiobook. And Julian Treasure makes it easy because he has a whole bunch of numbered links on his website that you can hear the sounds that he's talking about in the book. And in the audiobook, he does have brief clips of a lot of sounds. So if you're curious, what does a wolf spider sound like when it's purring? There you go. You can listen to it. A Sumatran rhinoceros, when it's singing, what does that sound like? Oh, yeah. Fascinating book. Okay, now this next book I buddy read with Freddie of Sluggish Reader. I will link Freddie's channel below. It's called Akata Witch, and it's by Nnedi Okorafor. Freddie and I haven't quite finished our final discussion of the book. That'll be this weekend. So, Freddie, if you don't want to hear this, just skip over this part. Nnedi Okorafor is a Nigerian American. Her parents are both Igbo Nigerian, and her central character in this novel is Sunny, who's 12 years old, and her parents are both Igbo Nigerian, and Sunny was born in the US, but then her parents moved to Nigeria, and she's lived there for a few years now, and she learns that she's got some magic powers. The other big thing about Sunny is that she is albino. So she gets flack from other students and sometimes some other people around her, either for being albino or for being too American. And I listened to Nnedi Okorafor in an interview talking about the word Akata, which she says is not a nice word. It's a derogatory term that is used by Nigerians to refer to African Americans, including Nigerian Americans. And she decided to reclaim the word. And I think Sunny in the novel gets called Akata. So that's where that word comes from. Now, I started out with a hardcover copy from the library, and I'll pop in an image here. The cover was done by Julian Treasure, who's a Canadian artist, and I find it whimsical and sweet and appealing to a tween or really young teen audience. And I think that is the main audience for this novel. Sunny's 12. There are 3 other young people in the book that are around that same age. And the book continues, by the way. The next book is Akata Warrior and then Akata Woman. Now, partway through this buddy read, I had to return the library copy. Somebody was waiting for it and it was the only one in the system. But fortunately, there was a digital copy that I could borrow from Libby. The cover is very different. Now, I see this cover as one where the publisher wants to appeal to older teens or adults. And I'd love to hear what you think about these two covers, and if you would prefer one over the other as far as for yourself, or if you would pick it up. It's a fun fantasy adventure, an evil creature or evil being that this group of children need to overcome. Last up, this is the book that I mentioned at the start of this video, Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright. Alexis Wright is an Indigenous writer and activist from Australia. Her people are the Wanyee from the area near the Gulf of Carpentaria, far in the north of Australia, which is where this novel is set. This book won both the Stella Prize and the Miles Franklin Award in Australia. She is the first writer to have won both in the same year. It's won other awards, including the James Tate Black Memorial Prize, and it was shortlisted for a bunch of awards, including the International Dublin Literary Award. And it's a fat one. I led a group read of this. Once again, we're not quite finished the discussion. That will happen this weekend. There's a stalwart group of readers who some of them have made it to the end, including Roz of Scallydandling About the Books. We've got Kate from Germany, and Tanya from Australia, and Nyambura from Kenya. Nyambura's channel is 100 on Books. And Nastya, I'm not sure how far she is in here. And same with Io and Mary. It's a challenging read because the text is dense. The sentences are long. There is such playful language in here. Lots of allusions to music of all kinds. The main characters are in a family. We've got Cosman Steele, who is a visionary, and his dream is to start a donkey transport conglomerate because he can see that fossil fuels are a thing. They're going to be a thing of the past. They're damaging our environment. Donkeys can survive in hot, dry conditions. There are thousands of feral donkeys in Australia, so he's going to use them to start a transport business. His wife's name is Dance, and she is passionate about butterflies and moths. So she is the mother of two boys. The teenage boy is named Aboriginal Sovereignty, and right from the beginning, he has gone missing. Where's Aboriginal Sovereignty? And his little brother is Tommy Hawk, who is a piece of work. Just a little boy, but his mind has been twisted by government propaganda and things that he's been told at school. And this is a tragedy. There's the family tragedy with these two boys and what happens to them. There's the tragedy of the culture, the people of this town in Praiseworthy, with this dust or some kind of pollutant haze above them. And there's the tragedy of our planet Earth and what is happening with climate change and environmental degradation. But in addition to these characters seeming like real people in their own right, they also have kind of another level, an archetypal sort of representation. So it's like there's a larger story being told at the same time. And we have the mayor of Praiseworthy, who is albino. He's Aboriginal and albino, so kind of like Sunny in Akata Witch. And he is on the side of the government and the plans for assimilation. The other main character in here is the land itself, country, and ancestral spirits. And it is so rewarding. And I am so glad to have read it and so glad to have company to help carry me through some of the more esoteric and off into the weeds kind of sections in this novel. And that is all I've got for you today. It's starting to rain here, so I've got to wrap it up. But I do want to tell you about my raspberries. They are at the back of the garden there, and they are all coming ripe. So I made a raspberry crumble cake. I found the recipe online it's a Canadian Living recipe, but I changed a whole bunch of it. I will include a link anyway if you want an idea about what inspired me with this cake. And the pears are coming along. Right directly behind me, there's a pear tree, and it is loaded. So, looking forward to the fruit of summer. And I'm looking forward to more great reading, and I want to hear from you. So please do say hello in the comments down below. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you recommend. Have you read any of these books that I've talked about? Whatever you want to say, or throw in a fruit emoji if you don't know what to say. I wish you all well. I wish you happy reading. And I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye for now.